The scariest thing you could do is move to a city and state and move there and regret it. Now, in this video, I'm gonna give you a couple of tips, suggestions, and recommendations on what you should do before moving to the state of Indiana or the city of Fort Wayne. Now, if you're thinking about moving to Fort Wayne, Indiana, it's for one of four reasons. Either one, you're either from this area, you have relatives in the Indiana, Ohio, Michigan, Illinois area, maybe Northern Kentucky, and you're thinking about moving back to be closer with relatives. The number two reason is you're thinking about taking a job in Fort Wayne. Maybe there's a potential job coming up and you want to do some research to see whether or not it could be a good fit for you and your family. The third reason is you're a remote worker and you live in a high cost of living area. We get this one quite a bit from like California, Arizona, Colorado, even Virginia, Georgia, in some parts of Georgia, where Florida is another good example of people who just feel like, you know, their money just isn't going as far as they want it to go, and they want a piece of the American dream in the form of home ownership, and they found that Fort Wayne is one of the most affordable cities in the United States. The last category, kind of similar to category number three, is people who are on a fixed income and they're downsizing, moving towards retirement. They found Fort Wayne, Indiana. They saw that research that this place is pretty cool. They looked at the affordability and they said, okay, we're thinking about moving there, and so let's do some research. Now, before we get into all the tips that I want to give to people before they move to Fort Wayne, Indiana, I want to tell you where this comes from. We personally moved to Fort Wayne, Indiana, and we've made a couple of these mistakes, so I'm gonna give you some tips to avoid. And plus, we've talked to our clients that we've helped over this last year, and so I'm saying, okay, let's go into 2025 and give a few more tips to people to help the transition be a little bit more smooth. Now, when we moved here 5 years ago, you know, I did reach out to a real estate agent. I started my research about 6 months prior, and then I got pre-approved and I went to put an offer in on a house. Now, for a lot of people, that's not even a possibility. Even though about half of our clients do that, some people are just not comfortable with that. And to be honest with you, I also wasn't comfortable with it. The very first house I put an offer in was a home, was over 2,000 square feet. It was a super great neighborhood and it had a walkout basement. But that night, while I was waiting to hear the response from the seller, I couldn't sleep because I had so much anxiety because I didn't know if I was actually buying like a good house, you know? It was something about the house that stuck out. Like I think, if I remember correctly, the bathroom was like an ADA, so like a disabled bathroom, so it had a lot more stuff in the master bath, and I was like, I don't know. And then I woke up the next day and I called the realtor and I said, hey, can you pull the offer? And I know she was super frustrated, but I was just so anxious that I couldn't pull the trigger until I actually got here. So we've been there before, and many of our clients have been there before, and we helped them. So my first recommendation is to visit Fort Wayne if you have the opportunity. There's no better way than to get a good feel for the city that you're thinking about moving to, but to visit. And then while you're here, for most of the time, people come for like 3 to 4 days. And if they reach out to us on the front end, we can do a discovery day for them. We take just a couple hours on one of the days and take them around to the different neighborhoods and show them some resale homes or homes that are new construction. So my first tip is to visit, and then the second tip would be to reach out to someone on our team. My name is Noye Dowles. If this is your first time on the channel, I help people move to and from and around Fort Wayne. I work on a team with Stacia and Caleb Ellington, also my wife. So 4 of us are always available in one way, shape, or form. You can contact us via text, call, or email. We also have a link where you can schedule a Zoom call. I do recommend the Zoom call because that's when we can do a needs analysis and kind of, you know, look at your timeline and see what you're looking for, so we can come up with a plan to find all of those places. More than likely, you've already decided that you're going to come to visit Fort Wayne sometime within the next couple of months. So you're really trying to determine whether or not you're gonna rent and then buy, or you're gonna buy straight away. Now, I know that it is extremely difficult. I just told you the example of myself of purchasing a house. Even after you come visit, yes, a lot of people they're super excited. They love what they see when they come to visit, and they're ready to put an offer in. But if you're still not convinced and you still don't feel comfortable, the second step is to rent. Now, we actually had a client, they were a year out. The wife came first and then the husband came second. Then they came here and they rented. Now, a lot of people will contact us and they say, do we have any recommendations? And up until today, I did not have a recommendation until I talked to that past client. I asked them, I said, hey, where did you guys stay? and they told me they stayed at the Meadows at Kiefer Creek. Now I remember Meadows at Kiefer Creek because they've been building it for the last couple of years, and it's right off Lima Road, which is not that far from here. So I called the guy, I said, hey, the guy's name is Dylan, he's the property manager. I said, hey, you know, my clients just moved out of there. Can you tell me a little bit about the townhomes here? And he's like, yeah, we have furnished units and unfurnished units. Now here's a funny story, and this is gonna be helpful to you. They originally intended only to have unfurnished units, and they were only gonna do long-term leases, 12 months or more. But someone higher up from Google called those townhomes and said, hey, look, we've got people that are coming to Fort Wayne for phase one. It's the excavator team that need a place to stay. Now, currently they're staying in hotels and it's costing us a lot of money. Would you guys be interested in furnishing some of those units, and we'll buy them out so those guys can stay? So they mulled it over and they thought, oh, you know what, okay, that might work. Shortly after that, our clients called. And so this particular apartment area is open to short-term leases less than 6 months. They signed a 3-month lease. He didn't tell me how much the lease was per month because I don't think he wanted to divulge that information. So my recommendation is the only recommendation that I will give, because I actually talked to Dylan. I've actually been to that apartment complex. If you're thinking about moving to Fort Wayne and you know you're gonna purchase a house, if you currently live in a house, it's probably kind of difficult to move into an apartment and that be your future residence, but you need a little bit more time. Feel free to reach out to us, like I said before, and we can give you Dylan's information. It's called Meadows at Kiefer Creek. That's my only recommendation that I have. Now, I want to bring up new construction because Fort Wayne is an affordable city, so we actually have affordable new construction. And to be honest with you, the new construction prices have gone up. I mean, basically, there are very few that are like at a 280, 290 range, but most of it is above 300,000. But if you're moving from like Chicago or some of these other areas, I mean, that is still affordable in comparison to where you came from. And a lot of people don't think about new construction when they come to Fort Wayne, Indiana, because the city that they live in, new construction, they don't have that many and it's super expensive. I know that was the case with me when I moved to Fort Wayne. I didn't even look at new construction houses because I thought I couldn't afford it, but also they didn't have as many. So I highly recommend looking into new construction houses. And I also have to give ourselves a plug on this one as well, because one of the clients, he asked me this and I never thought about it. He said, well, why should I use a real estate agent if I'm just going to a new construction house? And I thought to myself, I said, well, that's a good point, except how do you know which new construction builder to go to? So most people are familiar with D.R. Horton, for example. That's the only nationwide builder here in Fort Wayne, Indiana. All of the rest of the new construction builders are regional. It's people that they used to be real estate agents back in the 70s and 80s, and then they started a new construction company. So you're basically walking into random new construction companies not knowing all of your options, right? So it reminded me of when we purchased our last car. I went to all of the dealerships that I knew of, and the options that they had, all they had was the Jeep Grand Cherokee. It was the Texas edition with the decal on the hood, and I got really ticked off because I thought that was so ugly. Just so happened I was scrolling through social media and this guy said, go to Car Guru. I went to Car Guru, I put in the car that I wanted. All of a sudden, I found out about all these other dealerships that were in a 120-mile radius, and they sent me the Grand Cherokee L. It was the first 3-row Grand Cherokee that they made, and it had the new body style, the new grille like the Wagoneer has. And I believe we were the first ones in Fort Wayne with that vehicle, or at least it was the first one that I saw, right? And we drove up there immediately, so we were able to get that new body style with the 3rd row. But the only way that we would have known to go up to Ypsilanti was we had to be contacted by them. So essentially what I'm saying is, if you're looking for a new construction house, you would definitely want to know all of your options, because just off the top of my head, Harrison Heller, Olthoff Homes, D.R. Horton, and Granite Ridge, all last year had promotions at different times, but they offered different things. Granite Ridge had a 1% buy down for you, a 1-point buy down. D.R. Horton was running promotions all throughout the year. There was so many of them, but they mostly were around like 5.5 interest rate. Olthoff was down under 5%. They were like 4.85. And then, Granite Ridge, I think I forgot the other one, but you get my point. If you walk into one of the new construction homes, you may fall in love with that and think that you're getting a deal when there's a better deal on the table. So I definitely recommend getting a full scope. We're actually gonna redo our relocation guide. When people reach out to us via email, they may ask for the relocation guide, and we're gonna add that in there. We're gonna add some of the new construction builders to the back. That way you can do your own research in your own free time. My next tip, and this goes for people who actually get a chance to visit. Once you come to Fort Wayne, I always recommend when you go to a place, so let's say you do come and you do the discovery day with us. When you go to those neighborhoods, take a look at the map and find the closest grocery store. I always tell people, I think you can get a good feel of the neighborhood if you go to the local school and go to the local grocery store. Now here in Fort Wayne, we've got Kroger, there's a grocery chain called Meijer, and then Aldi. So I know there's a lot of different grocery store chains across the US, but those are the three that are here. And you can tell a lot about that area just by going to those grocery stores. Also to note that if you're looking for a Target, there's only 3 Targets in Fort Wayne, and there's only 1 Costco and Sam's. Both of those are on the north side of town. So the Costco doesn't give you a good idea of where you're gonna be living because, again, there's only 1 of them. Next tip, start planning to find your moving company. This is something that a lot of people don't talk about when it comes down to moving, but you've got to decide how you're gonna get your household goods from where you live at to here. There's so many different ways to do it, but I think the best way to do it, if you have the capacity, is to pay for someone to load up your belongings in the city that you currently live in, and then have that company move it out here, drive it out here, and then pay for people here locally to unload it, right? It's the quickest way to do that. Now, the biggest hang up or the biggest snag is gonna be finding the proper relocation company. And this is a big tip for moving. A lot of people are trying to save money when it comes down to moving their belongings, because pods cost a decent amount of money. So you may look for some moving companies, and you may you feel the need to maybe go for the ones that are inexpensive. This is actually a thing. When you pick an inexpensive moving company, the way that they make their money is they will load up all of your things and promise to deliver it here, okay? But what they're really trying to do is they're looking and hoping for there's another person moving to this area as well, so they can have 2 loads into 1 truck, or they're doing 2 trucks, but they're both going this way with 1 driver. If they can't find someone that is coming to Indianapolis or Chicago or Cincinnati or something that's near here, it could delay the arrival of your goods. This actually has happened a couple times to a couple of our clients. And again, we didn't recommend these movers, but typically the reason that it's so low is because they're trying to cut down on the travel costs. So I would properly vet the moving company that you're thinking about if you're paying movers to hold your stuff in storage until you find a place to live. So that goes back to the planning part. If you move here to Fort Wayne and you go and rent over at Meadows at Kiefer Creek, you're kind of already in place. Then you find the house that you're looking for, you get a closing date, you get all the utilities and gas and electricity ready to go. Essentially now you have a lot more time. So if they delay in one way, shape, or form, you're okay. You're in a better position than if you haven't moved here and started renting for a little bit. So now that you know the top things to do before moving to Fort Wayne, check out our other videos where we talk about the pros and cons of living in Fort Wayne, and we'll see you there.